welcome to
dragons,
unicorns,
and other really creative creatures.
and this is...
I'm Rona Gofstein, and this is...
And I'm Dr. Kevin, and this show is to support, promote, discuss, tango with the arts.
Celebrate.
Celebrate. Yeah, there we go.
I didn't even copy.
Talking about celebrations, the wedding moves forward.
Yay!
Yay!
I know.
Very
excited.
It's getting close. It's getting close.
Yeah, I know, because the summer just disappeared.
I know. I don't know where it went, but so we went cake testing.
That's fun.
Yes, I think it was.
Did you have to gluten-free cake test?
Yes. So because I'm gluten-free, there's 3 of them, Federico's, and they were fabulous to deal with. And we went, and Jeff he got to taste the gluten-free and the non-gluten.
Yeah, you got the good ones.
And then I got to do the just the gluten-free, and we got all the fillings. So like the top layer of the cake is going to have a yin-yang sign on it.
Oh, pretty.
And it's going to be gluten-free chocolate with peanut butter filling. Then the next 2 layers. Now I may be making the second layer gluten-free. I'm waiting for people to get back to find out how many gluten-free people I have coming to the wedding. Because I think right now we get about 175 people coming. We invited like 325.
Sounds about right.
So to make sure, because that only gives you 12 pieces. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, so we may have to do a
second layer.
Yeah, second layer. But right now it's like an almond cake with a mocha filling for the next 2 layers, and then there's a sheet cake that's a white with a strawberry filling, and then a purple pound cake with a chocolate filling.
I've had their purple cakes. I had a birthday cake of theirs that was purple velvet.
Oh, yeah. So we had to go through this whole like getting the cake ready and stuff like that. Oh. The kilt is now in process from the clan tartan, so that's all
Clan
going.
Emery.
What?
Clan Emery.
Clan Ross.
Oh, Clan Ross. Okay.
Yeah.
Tartan of Clan Ross.
Yeah. It is a dance tartan that was created by the Ross clan for the Highland dancers with Daglish.
Nice.
That's been doing weaving kilt material, I think like the 1200s or something. They're the only place you can get it.
Yikes.
I had to find a kilt maker who had a relationship with them because they won't sell you it as a private person.
Oh, you have to be.
You have to be one of their kilt makers. Luckily, there's one in Keene who's fabulous, Judith Sullivan, and so went in all the measurements and stuff like that. So the kilt is underway, and a purple peasant shirt, deep purple.
Oh, that'll work. Because
you've
I've seen the tartan. Yeah, it has a purple.
Purple, yeah, purple and white for this. It's really light because it's a dance tartan.
That makes sense.
Because all the other Ross tartans were ugly.
All right then.
So, anyways, we are one step closer to the Renaissance-themed wedding.
That's going to be great.
Yep, you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
Absolutely.
I have so many Renaissance-y themed clothes. That'll be.
Yeah, you'll have.
I get to choose.
Yeah, you'll have no problem.
None.
So it's so funny because the Renaissance seems to just never quite go out of style. People have probably the widest leeway that they've ever had, and just about anybody can wear anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can corset it. You don't have to. You can veil. You can, unveil.
Yeah, but unveil. There'll be no unveiling at my
wedding. There'll be no
wedding.
Salome's dances, no.
But the interesting thing is clothes have had such a history. And so I also wanted to ask you another question, which is, a lot of times you go to the movies and you will see these beautiful costumes and you see all of this stuff. You watch the Academy Awards or the Emmys or stuff like this, and these costume designers get awards for these fabulous costumes, but we really know very little about them per se. So I just wanted to ask you, who is your favorite all-time costume designer?
Oh, well, oh my gosh. I think Edith Head is brilliant. I love her work from the older movies, and if anybody has ever seen her and Edna Mode from The Incredibles, of course one was modeled on the other. She was this little woman with these enormous glasses.
Yes. Yep.
I love Adrian's work from Cleopatra and some of the ones he did for that. He did a lot of the big Cecil B. DeMille ones. And currently, I find myself noticing Coleen Atwood's name. She's a current costume designer. She does James Cameron's movies. So she did all the wonderful costumes for Titanic, which have become iconic. Everything from that hat to all the dress silhouettes that she wore in that film. But I happen to love her work. How about you?
Cecil Beaton.
Black and white, and back to the hats too. That My Fair Lady hat.
My Fair Lady. Hello, Dolly. He just did some incredible. In your face. I mean, they were works of art.
They were. And I think Bob Mackie was sort of his. It seems to be inspired by his work because he also does that over the top work that's still, you know, he did Cher and he did Barbra Streisand as well.
Yep, all of that.
He did all of them.
So, you know, a lot of times people may hear a name if you're not kind of somebody who hangs out or really appreciates that stuff. You see it and you may think, oh my, that's really great, that's really beautiful, that's really blah, blah. But we don't hardly ever hear from those designers. And they're just as much of an artist as the directors, the actors.
Oh yeah, it pulls it all together.
Composers. I mean, if you have a bad design of clothes, it can ruin a movie. Oh, I don't remember who did Somewhere in Time, but I loved whoever did Somewhere in Time.
Oh, I'd have to look that one up.
I would too.
And then there's, you know, and then you get the designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier who did about 600 and something costumes for things like The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And some of them you only see very briefly. They just flash by, but they're stunning and memorable. And
well, I love getting the DVDs now where you will have all of these behind-the-scene interviews, and sometimes they'll do the costume design.
you can, because costumes costumes are destroyed after movies are made for the most part. To find, when I worked 2 years ago for the American Textile History Museum, we did a display of Hollywood costumes, and they're very hard to find because you can't reuse them. They become too noticeable. You could never reuse Marilyn Monroe's white dress from the 7-Year Itch. You can't reuse the stuff from Cleopatra. They don't work. Props you reuse, sets you reuse, all those things. Costumes had a tendency to take up too much room, were too difficult to store. They would dig a ditch, throw them in, set them on fire. So unless somebody actually took them and saved them, they were lost. I know. There's some Claudette Colbert outfits from her time and some of that satin that she wore that I would kill for.
Oh,
Although
yeah.
I suppose I'm more built like Mae West. So
Yeah.
I think I'll take her outfits.
Yeah, well, you know, so you want someone to come up and see you sometime?
You know, it depends.
Do you think that someone might be someone like Kelly Belt?
Could be. Shall I introduce our guest for the day?
Yeah, so who is this Kelly Belt?
Who is Kelly Belt? All right, that's not fair. Kelly Belt is our guest today, and she's the founder of Voltaire Designs Studios, where, as you would see from their store and website, they adorn the abnorm. Don't you love that? Kelly is completely, pretty much self-taught. She designs fashion, jewelry, accessories, I mean, really fascinator hats and gloves and all sorts of things, not to mention cell phone covers and things like that in a variety of styles, including goth, steampunk, and contemporary. I also happen to know she plays a hell of a magenta in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Wow. So I'm going to give her the quiz once we bring her on air. Hey, welcome, Kelly.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Kelly is fresh from Boston Comic Con. Fresh may be the wrong word.
Fresh is definitely the wrong word. I just rolled here from the convention center.
Well, you
Long
know.
hours
That is
doing cosplay.
cosplay. So, well, I don't know if you realize it or not. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I was doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show back in the 70s.
Wow.
At the Exeter Street Theater.
Oh my gosh. I think every generation needs to do the Rocky Horror Show. It needs to stay alive.
Well, Fox should stop televising it. But.
Yes, they should not do new versions of it. Definitely not.
Oh, I would not watch it out of protest. It was just horrifying, even the casting. Adam Lambert should have been Dr. Frankenfurter.
Yes.
That's exactly what I thought, but he did an excellent Eddie. I actually like that scene almost as much, maybe more, than the original because of him coming through the window and the effects that went around with it.
Yes, Eddie having been
else,
frozen in the
honestly,
original is a little odd, but
yeah.
So your thing was magenta, and
Yes.
I did the Rocky Horror as well, and in fact, we had a little touring company that broke off and did it without the movie. We actually did the stage show.
Oh, the Rocky Horror Show.
And I was in that, and I did that part. So I'm going to ask, so what character do you think I did?
You're definitely not a Brad.
Could be a Janet. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
Remember, I was like 125 pounds at the time.
Okay, so I guess we'll go with either, I'm going to say a Rocky.
What do you think? Do you know? Have we had this conversation?
I don't know. My friend, Rocky would be definitely one option.
Frankenfurter seems almost too obvious.
Yeah, but I had to say, and then there's Frank.
Yeah, I was Frankenfurter.
Yeah, Frank is just.
We have our own very special Frank.
Yes, we love our Frank.
I had to learn to run in 6-inch heels, and you leap off the stage when you do it as a show, and you chase Rocky around the audience.
We
our
get
Rocky
out and go through the
yeah,
audience.
our Frank chases our Rocky.
Our weakling weighing 98 pounds actually managed to pick up our generously large Frankenfurter
Yes,
and
he
carried
carries
him
him up
to the RKO
end.
tower.
At the end, it was a good job.
God,
We were all laughing.
we did have a costume malfunction that I just want to share, and then I want to get to some of Kelly's work. But we started with
Which
the
never
Rocky Horror.
malfunctions.
So we were doing Traveling Pain, and we were doing the high kicks, and we had and Janet was between Brad and I, and we were sitting there, we were dancing, and she fell out, and so we keep singing, and we're both shoving her in, so that because her arms are around us, and we're just never miss a beat, shoving it back in, pushing it back.
Musical theater, just keep smiling.
Columbia's tits are out the entire scene. Why can't Janet join in that?
Exactly.
Depends on
Free
the
the
age of the
movies.
show.
Yeah,
God bless Lily St. Cyr.
Yeah. I
Oh,
do love Janet.
so
I've done Janet.
You may have to do Janet.
Oh my God, really? Oh my God, I have to get in shape to do Janet again. Aren't I a little old for Janet?
you could
Have
always
you
do
seen the
Dr.
rest of us?
You could also do Dr. Scott.
Dr. Scott, Brad,
Janet.
Rocky.
So we've got some pictures. We're going to be showing us some stuff, but I'd like to
I love that picture.
talk to you. First of all, I'd like you to
First
step
of all,
up.
yes, we're going
and
to have Haley step up
we
because
wanna-
as
we
our
want you
first
to see
fashion designer.
the outfit that she wore. So show us what you wear. Now, what would you call that as a style?
This is a bit steampunk, a bit goth, not quite Lolita. Steampunk really encompasses a lot of different things from Victorian fashion, leatherwork.
Gears.
It's nothing that's technically historically accurate. So of course you never would have seen somebody, back then other than a hooker, bearing her ankles, never mind her knees. But yes, this is my high-low skirt. Somebody said to me, I'm doing a photo shoot in the morning. I need a skirt. And I went and made this in 20 minutes. So.
See, you just, whip off a new song and she whips out a new outfit.
Ah, yes.
It all depends on what inspires you. And it's true, actually, a lot of your inspiration has come from, oh my God, I need, what do I have to do? But I love this, the black and the gears. They joke that steampunk is what happened when goths discovered brown. When goths discovered brown. Because goth is almost all black for the most part, until you throw the Lolita in. But steampunk has a tendency towards the browns and golds.
Then Lolita's almost a completely separate, manja type of, more Japanese-inspired type of fashion based off of anime. But it all gets lumped together in the end.
And everybody blurs everything anyway. I mean, I've seen steampunk Batmans, so,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of being creative. Creatives are always building and creating and recreating and doing stuff. For some reason, did you ever see The Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
No, that's the one he ages backwards, right?
He ages backwards. There's every time when I see steampunk, I always think they should shoot that. It was a fabulous movie. They should shoot that movie again, and it should all be in steampunk.
I'm still waiting for the steampunk Sweeney Todd.
Oh, there you go.
It's so industrial sounding to begin with.
Yeah,
that it
well,
would
and
make an easy
yeah, 'cause
transition.
there's something about steampunk that makes you think Victorian England.
Yeah, we were
and
supposed
makes
to.
you
It was meant
think-
to be positive, you know, that there was, the original move to steampunk was writers and customers were just tired of the incredibly dark, depressing future that everybody in fantasy and science fiction was predicting. You know, the world was going to be a mess. It was going to be a disaster. Everything was going to be dystopian. And so what they did was they took sort of what we know about technology now, went back to when things were positive and hopeful, and blended that together. So now you have machinery and you have computers that appear to be run by steam. Steam electricity as opposed to coal and stuff like that.
A lot of the original thoughts of the day of Jules Verne,
Yes.
H.G. Wells type of future, if you will.
Yeah, the
And
hopeful and possible, and so it was a return. It was meant to, as a return to that in a lot of ways.
So Kelly, when did you first become interested in design?
Growing up in my family, you always made your own. We made our own Halloween costumes, and by the time I was 8, I was sick and tired of being a hobo every year because this was the 80s, and that's what your parents dressed you as. You're a hobo. So I would go with my mother to the fabric stores, and I would always be, you know, looking at these beautiful sari type of fabrics and lots of different brocades, and I was always drawn to these elaborate Renaissance style. I mean, of course, everything we see Renaissance style today is 98% non-historically accurate. But I was very drawn to those types of things. So I asked my mother one year, I'm like, you know, can I be like a princess? Of course, I'm thinking long bell sleeves, very beautiful, elegant, something very Lord of the Rings feel. And she makes me a tutu. So the next year I said, I want to be a rock star. I want to be Madonna. So she said, well, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to help. So I made my toilet paper and styrofoam ball microphone. And I actually got on the machine and I made my own skirt and modified my t-shirt so that, you know, just like Tiffany Amber Thieves, and it was the sweatshirt that had no collar to it that hung off one shoulder.
A little flash dance there.
Yes, definitely dating ourselves there. But yeah, so, and then years to come, we did, my mother got fixated on the idea of dressing my brother up as Cousin It from the Addams Family. So of course, that's my shining moment to be Morticia. And I actually was probably 12 at the time and had a nice Morticia outfit. And
That'll do it.
Yeah.
as went on, I was like 14, and I wanted to be a maid because of Rocky Horror. And it ended up being not safe for school. I had to wear shorts underneath it, and they stuck out. I don't know. My mom was the one who picked out the pattern. I don't know what went wrong.
It was a measurement error.
Yes, because I'm clearly 12 inches from my waist to my knee.
All right, fine. Gives a little more than a measurement error.
Yeah, your mother was flashing back to the Renaissance days too, and she was trying to see if she'd get you married off early.
There
Oh,
you go.
yes.
If she can bear
And
children,
now
she can
Halloween
get
is
married.
all year round.
For me, it is.
It is.
Yes.
There you go.
Between Comic Cons and Ren fairs and festivals, fairy festivals,
And weddings. You've done some
weddings. I've done wedding work. I've done actual weddings. I've done pretend weddings. Done steampunk weddings.
Oh,
Those are fun.
So now, so you more or less grew up from 8 to 18, evolving your own idea of a fashion sense and kind of creating costumes and stuff like this. When did you decide to make it a business, a living?
Truthfully, it started out with the jewelry. When I was young, I would make the jewelry, and my friends liked it. I wore it, and they'd buy it off of me. So instead of doing my homework at night, I would make beaded earrings and sell them to my friends for $5 a pair. Well, as I got older, I happened to be working at a day spa doing nails, and she was looking to have some jewelry on the shelves. Well, I was still making jewelry. I wasn't wearing any of it. As you can see now, I have not a thing on me, not even my wedding rings. The most accessorized I am is this Band-Aid. But so I started selling jewelry through there, and that actually became a pretty good chunk of my weekly paycheck. And from there, I started doing more of the things that I wanted to do, making darker things, more gothic things. And I found that I needed a different market for that. So I started doing fairs like the Steampunk World's Fair, comic book conventions, more specialized marketing. And I found that there was really a calling for it, and I loved the clothing too, and I kind of went back to the fact that I had this sewing machine that was 10 years old, but it still worked, and I started making outfits that I wanted to wear to go with things.
So you get to be your own advertisement.
Yeah, pretty much. I pretty much make what I want to wear, what I would imagine, you know, these little thoughts that come into my head. And
You've been inspired by movies. I've seen you.
I'm heavily worshiping the ground that Coleen Atwood walks on.
And now, what's the most recent movie she's done that people would recognize?
She's basically done anything and everything Tim Burton has touched. She did Edward Scissorhands. She's done, more recently, Snow White and the Huntsman. She did Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Oh, that's
part
where I
of the
just
Harry
saw her
Potter.
name.
Yeah.
That's just hit cable.
Yeah, that was...
And that's the 20s. So she
Home
got to do a
for-
combination
yeah,
of the
and-
20s, which is such a great era. And
fabulous
a little
days.
over the top, too. She got to do like the president's headdresses and stuff like that. And so both somewhat historically accurate and somewhat costumey at the same time. I was like, so lucky.
Now, did she do Dark Shadows? 'Cause
Yes.
Burton
Yes.
did- Yeah, that was that was definitely some interesting clothes going on there as well.
Yeah. She's
The campy, vampy kind of.
and then the right next to the everyday,
Yeah.
which I
Yep.
love, that she can really do that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hers, and I would love to crawl inside her mind and get lost for a few hours.
You did her. You mentioned the Snow White and the Huntsman. You did the Queen from that.
I
that
did.
first, with the
Evil
bird
Queen
skulls.
Ravenna, the one where she's sitting on the throne, and the outfit has the bird skulls around the neck and coming down here, and the big, like, I think there's 3 or 4 layers to the skirt. And yeah, I decided one year that I wanted to do that as a replica because I was so floored by it. And it turns out that the heads of dead birds are kind of expensive. I needed, oddly, 13 of them for the costume.
Yeah, to do this.
So we ended up making them out of polymer clay, which was significantly cheaper.
I love the fact that you start with, here's an image. This is what I'd like to dress as, and then backtrack, just sort of deconstruct and then reconstruct.
And there's so much research that goes into it. I'm currently working on what they call the Theed throne gown from the first Star Wars, fucking Episode 1. And you'll remember it it's the big red gown with, it looks like it has the beetles along the bottom,
Oh, yes.
the Saiyan jewels that light up, and the giant, like, half dome
Headdress, yes.
headdress. And yeah, I have weaves of hair of all sorts of colors, just
Gosh, I can't even
pinned
imagine.
everywhere. I'm a drag queen's dream come true when it comes to making up a wig. But I'm like, okay, so this is actually going to be a foam pool noodle cut in half, bent around a piece of foam board because it has to be light enough for me to carry it on my head. Even once I
true.
get all of this, hair weave, spread out on it, covered it, and there's so many things like that. That in particular is made out of a bengaline fabric, which is typically something that looks almost like a corded rug,
Oh my gosh.
but very up close. It has like channels, cords to it. So
That's
I
got to
mean,
be fun to find.
there's a lot, and even when I did the 3 for Rocky Horror, there was like, Columbia's jacket is made of gold sequins, and the sequins are in a particular order. They line up. There's a certain way and pattern width of the sequins on her shorts and how far they are apart. And
the details are amazing.
There's just as much research that goes into it as there is physically coming up with and building.
So I've got a couple of questions. First of all, what is, because one of the movies that was out in the not too distant past that actually did a little highlighting of costumes, so to speak, was the Hunger Games, because they had to dress her up.
Right, she's dressed.
To show it. And they did the whole flame gown and things like that when she did it. What did you think of that from a professional standpoint?
I thought it was amazing the way that they used the lighting and effects, and it's amazing what computers as well has brought us.
You're going to cosplay. You're not going to have that ability to.
Oh, well, yes, you can't make physical flames. You can't put flame retardant gel and light yourself on fire on stage at the middle of the exhibition center in Boston.
Oh, man.
But you can be a flame there.
You can. Oh, you can be a. Yes, we met plenty of Frankenfurters that weekend. But I mean, there's EL lighting now. There's home.
That's true.
My husband does this. He makes computers that you can program to do just about anything, and it's literally the size of a credit card holder. And they're called Raspberry Pis, and you can, like, another idea that I'm working on is a steampunk Tron, where I'm having all of this electronic tape that actually like dances to the music. The theme from Tron and some of the other music.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
But yeah, the way that for Catching Fire and the other ones that they did, the illumination of the costume to make it look like flames, and
well, they had to do such a range too, because her district was. We're back to the hobos.
Yes, we're back to the coal miners.
Yep.
And then you have District 1, which could not be more elaborate.
McQueen.
Now, yeah, really. And then you've got an Effie and her butterflies and her pink and her the butterflies. We all love the butterflies.
I still want to make the jacket that she wore back to District 12.
Just terrific. I love it.
So now, do you ever make costumes for men?
Yes, I do. I actually make custom corsets for men. That costume, that's mostly just the hat. The vest is really nothing special. That was our, we renewed our vows, and a great friend of mine, G.W. Smith, who's actually an ordained minister, came up, and that was at the one year that they didn't have the Watch City Steampunk Festival on Waltham Common. The group of us steampunks gathered together anyway. There was Riverfest going on. So we figured we'll just take over, right in front of the bandstand. And
okay.
We decided to renew our vows. We figured, what else would draw a crowd and draw attention? So, and then we went out for tacos afterward.
So now tell us about this costume.
Oh, Nicole, I love you. That
that's
my body double. Nicole's a very good friend. That's also our Columbia during our Rocky Horror production. Yep. Nicole is wearing that bodice. Was actually custom made for me. It's actually all hand cut out of leather. All of the gears on it were traced onto pieces of leather and hand stitched or glued on. The bustle I made has, I want to say something like 9 yards of fringe on it.
Oh my God, that's a lot of
And
fringe.
the skirt is made out of, I think, about 4 or 5 yards of muslin. And on that one, in order to get the gathering where I needed it, and because it's actually fuller and wider in the back, it almost does like a fishtail in the back of that skirt. I hand pleated and gathered each row, pinned it in place, and sewed it on.
I complain about editing, but I could not spend the time it took to do this.
Well, I'll have to tell you, when I got fitted for the kilt, the kilt maker who's been doing this for 30 years or whatever, and she was talking about, so do you want this kind where the pleats line up here and they recreate the tartan? Do you want this kind where it recreates the bigger square? Do you want this kind that does this? And she explained like 5 different, which I was like,
box pleats, standard folds.
Yeah.
It's another language.
Yeah, and it was another language. And I sat there and I said, looking at me, looking at this cloth, and knowing how thin it is, because it's thinner than most kilt cloths, because it's a dance tartan.
Yeah.
I was like, what would you do? And she goes, well, this is what I think would look best. And I'm like, do it! I like it. I
God
don't
forbid
speak
the
this
one time
language.
you don't give them that option,
They know exactly what they want.
and they know exactly what they want, but it's not necessarily stated at the beginning. Or
Yeah, yeah.
I want this, I need this outfit completed for such and such convention, but they don't tell you that 2 weeks ahead of that date is when they actually want to pick it up because they're going to another convention and want to at least wear it there, but there's no costume contest there. So
Right.
So now that last outfit, and now this one, which I'm going to have you describe again.
This one's,
Oh.
But both of
Oh, Lord.
these two outfits, could you not see them in the race scene at My Fair Lady?
oh God, yeah. I mean, a
Just
little more black
steam-
and white, but yeah.
Yeah,
if
just,
you-
just a little more steampunk version of
yes,
them.
we could do a steampunk My Fair Lady. My steampunk lady.
This was inspired by Moscato and Tim Gunn's Under the Gun version, off channel of Project Runway. They did a steampunk episode. And I said, what could be more steampunk but fashion forward than actually making a train?
As in choo-choo, not as in back.
So,
The thing
yes,
that follows you back.
The original version of this was debuted at the Steampunk World's Fair. The front, it's a little off kilter in this picture because it's actually physically caught on the stage, and that's why I had that look on my face, like, dear God,
Sorry.
someone come up and help me, please. I don't know how to get out of here. The train on that dress is probably at least, and I'm talking from the back of my ankles, at least a good 10 feet long. It has trim that's hand sewn on. The front, when balanced properly and not snagged on the stage, looks like the actual front of a steam engine, the cow catcher,
Yep.
that would normally plow cattle out of the way instead of getting them caught under the train. The original hat that went with it actually steamed. We filled it with dry ice and hot water, and you could actually see steam coming out of it. And the bodice piece is actually an old bunt pan that we put in a light with an LED in, and it's painted up to look more like the front of a steam engine.
So, and this is you in the picture?
That is me.
Okay, so that's not a cow that the cow catcher caught.
No.
Ha ha ha.
Thanks. I was 20 pounds thinner then.
Wretched man.
Well, and I wasn't really commenting about the weight, but it's too good. And you got to look at the size of that.
It's yeah, I've seen it in person.
You've seen it. You saw it when it was being constructed,
It's
and
amazing.
it took up my entire kitchen,
It
from
did.
my front door to my oven.
Yes, she makes clothes, not food. You really can't cook sometimes when she's in heavy production mode.
Yeah. My husband will come home, and I'll just tell him, don't touch, because you never know what is covered in E6000 and is drying somewhere.
Now,
And where everything, and you know where everything is.
I know where everything is until he cleans.
Voltaire.
Voltaire.
Design Studios.
Yes.
Now, is this your full-time now? Is this your full-time living?
I work at CVS 2 days a week as a pharmacy technician to fund my habit, fabric habit that is.
Okay.
It wasn't that funny. Don't choke yourself
Sorry.
over it.
How good now?
Okay. But, I mean, is your goal that this actually
I'd
becomes...
love to be able to do this full time. I would love to be able to have just people come in and say, I want this, I want that, you know. I am working to make a ready-made line, and it's pretty much going to be underbust corsets and bustles, and I'm going to make them in the key sizes that most people wear, which is anywhere from 22 to 28. And then small, medium, large, or they're either going to be elastic waist or just, in one of the previous pictures, it was the first one with the leather corset, that bustle in the back that had all the fringe on it is just ties at the waist with a nice piece of
Oh, so you can add
ribbon.
it to something you
so
already
you add it
have.
over another skirt. And that's the fun with steampunk, is mixing and matching. And
So describe this. This makes me think of a pirate.
yes, I was an airship pirate. That was the first costume I wore in public. Went to Watch City Steampunk Festival, my first ever steampunk event.
That's Waltham, right?
That was, yes, that's down in Waltham, Mass, every Mother's Day weekend. And I decided to throw something together, so I made a nice jacket, and I purchased the corset And I liked the navy blue color. I liked the idea of being like this airship captain that I had, you know, stolen from an airship from the her royal army and was fighting these, you know,
I like that.
alien monster invaders, something very H.G. Wells. And so I customized the hat, and the skirt was about 10 minutes worth of work, but
10 minutes worth of work for Kelly. I was like,
that means it's 2 seams.
you know, it's amazing to me because you know how to sew, because you can see fashion, because you can look at something, literally deconstruct it and then reconstruct it.
People will ask me, they're like, this is amazing. How did they make that? I'm like, seriously? There's a seam up the back, then they pressed it, they folded over the top, and they ran a piece of elastic through it. That's what this is. And, you know, it looks great. It's not super complicated. And, you know, depending upon your cost of fabric, I'm then able to hand that off to other people as well.
See, to me, you know, when people say, how do you write a story? I'm like, you know, I can't explain it. And it's the same thing when I hear you. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, okay, can't wait to see it when it's done.
Yeah.
Because it always looks amazing.
My future mother-in-law decided that she was going to make something to some kind of cape or something to wear with the dress that she's wearing to our wedding. And we went over the other day, and she kind of like held it up and was like, I'm not sure what I did wrong, but it's kind of like light. She goes, yeah, well, the fabric didn't cost that much. So
Oh my gosh.
I appreciate the fact that we never see as much value in what comes naturally to us
Right.
as other people will see.
I've grown up.
And you've
making
grown
my
up
own
doing it,
clothes.
right.
It seems second nature.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's been amazing. I mean, I've known Kelly since Max was 3, so 11 years. At least
Yeah,
about
it's been
11 years. And
Now,
you know,
how
I
did the
watched
two of
her.
you meet?
She's my manicurist.
I'm
Oh.
responsible for those nails, especially when they look really funky.
So we did like actually one week it came out a little too 80s. She just looked more like she was two Jordache jeans commercials. She fixed it. But I'm one of her. It's great because I'm one of the clients who doesn't worry about, you know, it doesn't have to be mauve, and I don't do. The only time I've ever done a French manicure was for my wedding. Other than that, I want bright colors and I want fun things. So that was the first place I saw Kelly as a creative. I was being able to do really just sort of fun colors and.
There's definitely a creative artistic thing to
It was funny, our
nails.
first conversation, I asked you what you did for a living, and you
I-
obviously saw what I did, and I told you a little more about me. And when I heard what you said, I said, we're going to be good friends.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
you know, when I
have
meet
been.
people, Kelly and I both have a good sense of this. We can tell how much we can tell somebody. So I can usually tell if someone asks me about myself whether or not I say I'm a writer, or whether or not I say I write romance, or whether I just jump into the deep end and say I write erotic romance. And I wasn't quite published yet when we met, or it was just before, but I was in that process, and so I knew with Kelly I could kind of pretty much say what I really did. And it just went on from there. So, so we've got to know. So I've seen you kind of take this, you know, the going from just, you know, the occasional festival to having your own studio at Western Avenue in Lowell,
I know.
which is amazing
I
and
finally have a place where I can get in the middle of a project and go, oh God, I got to get the kid off the bus and just leave it and not have to clean it up or hide it away. And my studio right now, I can't even walk in. There's literally a path. It's a hoarder's nightmare.
So now,
She has this great space on the second floor. She actually has like an area where when she's not in the middle of a project, she can show you can show your
I do. I
designs
have a
beautifully.
showroom, and then I have almost a closet.
Which is great for the things that are in process. But I've seen people come in who have ordered custom work and have had jacket fittings while they're there, and your jewelry is there, which I've worn, and I love her fascinators. And I love fascinators. I think hats should come back.
so now, how old is your child?
Liam just turned 7 back in June.
So now, does he like to be costumed up by Mummy?
He does not.
He likes getting his nails done.
When you showed the runway before with the steam train dress and
Yeah.
such, there actually is another picture, and I had dressed him up, and he refused. He would not put the pants on.
Okay.
The only reason he put the jacket on is it was cold inside, and he would not go down the runway. And of course, I couldn't even bend over to pick him up because I'm this wide. My husband, in his nice street clothes, had to walk him down the runway. So He will come to festivals. Actually, not this past weekend, the weekend before, I did a steampunk festival in Kennebunkport, Maine. And it was drizzling through the day, but he was wonderful. He was under our tent. He was, telling people, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you'd like to pick that up and touch it, you can. And when he was bored, he was literally dancing in the rain and blowing bubbles and literally keeping all the rest of us entertained.
There you go.
He's a great kid, and he just comes along for the ride.
Well, hey, I was up at Cathedral of the Pines, and they were doing their first Renaissance, like kind of a live action role play, little vendor stuff, and the people were coming in, and they, some had armor and sword fighting and archery and stuff like this. And there was a couple of 7, 8-year-olds, 6, 7, and they were dressed up in the Renaissance, and it was raining at the beginning. And, of course, everybody's like, okay, this, the little tension, this rain's got to end. Can I put my tent up? I got my stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, ah!
That's my child, running around the yard with a lightsaber, attacking people, attacking the dog in the middle of the rain, not caring that he's soaking wet.
Hey.
Yeah.
When his clothes get wet, they just come off, and he just keeps going.
We definitely have kids who literally don't have the sense to come in out of the rain. But I don't know if it is sensical sometimes to come in, because really they do just have too darn much fun out there.
He counts swimming as a bath. He said, he logically said, Mommy, the water's treated so it stays clean.
Therefore.
He had a chlorine bath, and you know what? At 7:30 at night on a Sunday, after I'm still recuperating from Comic-Con, I'm not arguing with the 7-year-old.
No, not worth it. Definitely not worth it.
Yeah, but the thing is, and your comment is, I think that there'd be a lot of people that would be a lot more fun and less stressed out if they did a little more singing in the rain.
Probably singing and dancing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's only get a little wet.
It's only common sense to come in from the rain when it starts to turn to sleet and it gets really cold and it gets really nasty. Yeah. That's a different story.
That's why someone say, as long as you cover your weenus, you're fine.
Your weenus, you're fine.
Your weenus.
As long as you cover your weenus, you're fine.
There you go,
Yeah.
Words of wisdom from a 7-year-old.
Hey.
I was probably about 35, 36 or something. And I had everybody thinking I was crazy because we had the leftovers of a hurricane that was still like a Category 1 where I was at the time and stuff like this. And I was like out dancing in the hurricane. I thought it was just like fabulous and stuff like that. And everybody's like, okay, he's finally done it. He's gone off the deep end.
So you've mentioned some of the things you're working on. What would you love to, what haven't you done that you would like to do?
I'd like to finish a lot of the things I've already started.
Oh my God,
starting
finishing
to pile
projects.
Up and they need their own room at this point.
Yeah. Finishing projects is a challenge.
Would you, and we're almost out of time, but but would you ever like to be the costume designer for something like a movie or a play?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to get in touch with local theaters that need help with costumes.
Didn't you help the...
I actually did. I helped the Festival Ballet. There was a story last Christmas. The Festival Ballet, which runs out of Providence, Rhode Island, does the Nutcracker every year. And a disgruntled, I believe it was a disgruntled person that no longer had to do with the organization. They actually stole some of the costumes, including the Nutcracker's giant head, the Nutcracker's outfit, half of
and Nutcrackers are how ballet companies make their money. It's just
yeah, it is. It's their cash cow for the season. It's how they keep the ballet running to do Romeo and Juliet in the spring and your fall, Midsummer's Night. So it's really the funding that keeps them going for the rest of the year. Yeah. So they put out a call to people, and I drove down to Providence from where I live out in the boonies in Groton, Mass. Drove down to Providence and sewed for a day, took costumes back home with me, made them, finished them, and brought them back down.
Have you, so how far are you from Dunstable?
That's right. We had somebody here from the new Dunstable Theater Collaborative, and they may need...
Honestly,
Spitting distance.
Yeah, seriously.
They just started a local community theater.
Yeah.
We can hook you up with the guy that's the founding director.
Please do, because
There we
I
go.
probably have enough backstock of my own and fabric of my own. It's just time. That's the
Okay.
biggest problem.
Time. We
Speaking
want
of
to
which.
thank Miss Kelly Belt of Voltaire Design Studios, which is on, it's in...
It's online and on Facebook and at the Western Avenue Studios in Lowell.
Kelly, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And until we meet again, go be creative.